At the poor nights, fish do not fear humans. They have never known fishing or hunting there, so enormous fish approach you all the time. Large snapper will only move just because they can't swim through you, and kingfish are almost as curious. Along the bottom, there are oggly woggly weird bottom-dwelling shark things in yellow kelp. And in the yellow kelp, there are also beds of oysters and hidden eels and stingrays. In the shadows of the island, schools of blue mau swarm, and they too just allow you to pass through them. On the surface in some places where the waves corralled them were long strings of gooey blob-like invertebrates that would strain across your face and feel as if you were swimming through a large vat of chia seed kombucha. It was gross. Islands are remnants of volcanoes long gone, just the last vestiges of the rims of these great craters that extended from the seafloor, and as the ocean erodes them, it leaves behind these epic archways. Some of the arches were large enough for Havili to sail straight through. After the poor nights, we had to head back to the North Island. It was time for Jesse to step off Havili and go to attend to some duties on the family farm. The rest of the crew took this opportunity to lounge in a coffee shop, as per usual. When the rains came and drove us out of the coffee shop, I went in pursuit of some art supplies. This journal was running out of pages rapidly, but there happened to be no supply stores in town. As a desperate act, I turned to an art gallery where I found Steve. And Steve was kind enough to pull pages from his own watercolor notebook so that I could carry on making this journal. The rest of the day was spent observing stingrays in the marina from the edge of the dock, buying 900 Kiwi dollars of food provisions that would have to take us through another 12 days of island adventures and Thanksgiving. Then we set out on one last land adventure, a rainy evening hike out to a peninsula and a lighthouse, before we were to head back out on the boat the next morning to go visit more islands, this time to the Mokes. The Mokes were islands very much like the Poor Knights. However, they were not a game reserve, but many dramatic rocks just protruding out of the ocean, which offered great exploration on paddle boards, tunnels, caves, and all. Also, unlike the Poor Knights, you could hunt. So Kevin and Sam leapt into the water, spear guns in hand, and thump, thump, caught a bundle of fish. By the time the sun went down that first evening, we had caught 7 fish, and they were all cleaned as we watched a spectacular sunset over the water. The next day, we moved to other parts of the Mokes island chain. First, we swung by Maori Rocks, where we discovered a fish-feeding frenzy, birds and dolphins, and what are called boiling seas. Boiling seas are roving packs of fish that swarm, so it looks like the water boils. And we caught up with these boiling seas off of Fanal Island. The school of fish was so frenetic that it had sounded as if we pulled Havili up alongside a waterfall. Samrick was at the helm while Sam and I cast our lures into the melee of birds and fish feeding. The birds managed to skirt our lines, and we landed our lures right in the middle of the pack and just reeled in furiously. And the fish were not interested in what we were offering, but they were so dense that they could not avoid being hooked. I snagged one of these beasts by its tail and reeled it in. It was the greatest fish fight that I had encountered thus far on the trip, and once we got it on board, we saw that it was a school of trevally. Riding high off the dramatic fishing adventure right along the sea cliffs of Fanal Island, and with fish in the freezer, we then set off for the more distant Great Barrier Island.